Hello there. Today I'm going to talk about routine in the time of COVID. It's something that I've seen everywhere on Facebook, on the television. Everyone is suggesting that we keep to a routine, and I wanted to talk about that a little bit. So this is Linda Stacy of Living Blueprints, and if you are watching this on YouTube, I would love it if you would subscribe to the channel because it helps other people who want similar content to see that similar content. It also helps me get closer to having a custom URL, so that's for selfish purposes. But overall, Living Blueprints, again, is all about helping people manage their resources so that they create more space for the things that are awesome for them, the things that bring them more joy, more freedom, and allow more growth in a world of chaos and often an overwhelming amount of stress. So again, talking about routines. So routines are something that kind of fundamentally changed my life about 10 years ago as I started to understand if they're done well, they can really improve your life in hugely significant ways. But they're also seen kind of as drudgery. You know, some people say, get out of your routine, snap out of it. And I would agree with that too, if the routine isn't supporting you in positive ways. So ultimately, I don't think a routine for the sake of routine is worth anything. And I feel like I haven't seen enough people talking about why you want to keep a routine or what would keep you on a routine. So I thought we might talk about that a little bit today. So I feel like a personal financial budget is a really good analogy. It's just a very good way of looking at things. So a budget in itself can often seem hugely restrictive, confining, no fun. If someone is keeping their dollars close, they might get ridiculed. I mean, for years I was trying to get out of debt, and I couldn't imagine, you wouldn't imagine the number of people that criticized me in public spaces for the way I was choosing not to spend money, which was totally not their business. But again, it's definitely seen as a negative in our society sometimes to have a financial budget. And it doesn't feel good if there isn't like something awesome underneath it. So the opposite, if a budget is actually there to support you in the long run, it can actually be quite liberating. If you have a budget in place, it leads you, usually the initial place is it leads you out of debt. And usually people only take on the budget when they're in this serious source of pain because of the debt. That's often what gets people to actually change something as far as their routine goes. They have to be in pretty good amount of pain in order to actually adjust their routine. So, I consider myself a highly sensitive person, and some people might see that as like a negative thing, but I feel like because I saw a lot of situations in my day-to-day, my status quo existence as painful because I felt them more deeply, it encouraged me to put routines in place, which actually helped me have more freedom. So the same thing with the financial budget, but again, we have to look at what it's ultimately affording us. If we're just doing budget for the sake of budget or routine for the sake of routine, it's nothing. So if the budget can actually help you give more or be more available with your time or help you to get through a quarantine without mega stress, if it can help you to invest in yourself or into others or into causes, if it allows you to travel without stress, if it allows you to elevate your life without the stress of the impact of the financial burden, those are really awesome things. It makes living on a budget in some ways for a period of time to create more freedom and space and dollars to spend in the long run, it makes it worth it, right? So why have a routine right now in the time of COVID? It's an interesting question. I think it's really important with kiddos because we can kind of end up in this kind of lull. It gets really chaotic after time. For me, my routine has shifted completely. My routine used to be so regimented by a train schedule and having to be up and out of the house at a certain time. So I had these little blocks to do things. So it was more regimented just because of the schedule of my regular life, which has kind of fallen away in very many ways. I happen to be on furlough this week, so it's like there's almost nothing. So my routine has become, when am I actually, I'll write down the things that I want to have happen today, but they're not happening in any particular order. I know that I can do writing and business oriented things that I need to do for the household. I do better in the morning. I'm probably going to go for walks and do active type things in the afternoon, or even if it means some of the projects that I'm working on throughout the house through the afternoon. So my routine has become more of like a list of things that I can turn to when there's time on my hands. So routine definitely shifts in this time. But again, I feel like in this time of COVID, we really have this opportunity to look at how we normally spend our time and rethink it. This is a huge opportunity to question the status quo of how your life was before and how you might want it to go in the future. I think if anyone wants to take on a new routine or try new things, I feel like a really good way to do that is to identify sources of drain in your life. So if there's anything that's really kind of annoying you day in, day out right now, you may or may not feel like you have any control over it, but you might have the ability to tweak minor things in something that is really getting to you from day to day. And I would suggest that even making a minor tweak and then seeing how it goes, even if it's a percentage point better or even less than that, I think it's worth it. I think you are worth the time and energy to make your experience through this better. I don't think routine equals schedule, though. I've already said that in terms of how things are going right now. If you want to ensure there's some chunk of exercise somewhere, some chunk of quality conversation with key people in your life, you decide what those things are. But at this point, I feel like we have a little bit more freedom as to when they can actually happen. We also need downtime. We also need time, for absolutely nothing, for self-nurture, even in this time. I will say an example, for me in terms of identifying a source of drain, like I'm still having trouble. I'm having more trouble now with the afternoon desire to kind of want to forge through the refrigerator and look for stuff to munch on when I'm not really hungry. Or maybe I am hungry. Maybe we can have dinner at 4 o'clock now, because if it doesn't matter, why not? But anyway, what can I put in place to kind of help me tweak that so that I'm not as drawn to the refrigerator in the afternoon? There are some things that I know that I can do. And if it doesn't bother you, or if you're not going to have any negative consequence from going to the refrigerator every single afternoon for like 5 weeks, then good on you, no worries. But if it's a source of drain and you know that this is something that you're going to have to deal with in the long run that probably isn't good, or if it causes this negative self whatever and you'd like to avoid that, then it's a good reason to try something, put something in place to maybe help you not do that. I find, being sure that my lunch is a good lunch, one that has protein, that's my thing. I need to eat protein at every meal, that type of thing. I've also found that drinking the right kind of awesome teas in the afternoon can help me to go further. And also, depending on what kind of activity I can put in my afternoon can help too. We don't always have control over these things. But if anyone has any things that are real sources of drain right now and would like some ideas, shoot them my way. Certainly I can't remove the children from your house, but I did have something to offer as far as that. One thing you could do is just list everything that happened yesterday, and then kind of just in a very objective way, not in a self-deprecating way, what was awesome and what ways did you really support yourself in awesome ways, and what things kind of sucked. Where could you make some adjustments and then just observe, make an adjustment and observe. Start with those sources of drain. Tweak one thing at a time, just experiment. We have a little bit of time to experiment right now. You are worth the investment of your own experimentation at this time. If you're trying to get other people on board, and I don't know how many people in my community are dealing with a household full of people or children, but you need to get other people on board. It's just like with anything else. Attempting to get their buy-in is a good thing to do. Even teaching them the skill of getting other people's buy-in is a good thing to teach your children. So how can you speak to them in a way so that the routine makes sense from their perspective? Are there things that are important to them that can happen because they've stuck to the routine? And not necessarily like that you're going to bribe them in some way, but what are the benefits in their life? How can you help them see how the routine supported a better day? Anyone in your household. Again, the skill, the art of getting buy-in is so important as you become, in your career and further on in your life. But how often are we taught it? Okay, so I encourage people to take on aspects of routine right now in ways that support themselves to avoid drain, create more space, more energy for joy and awesome things. This, again, I feel like is a great opportunity to look for ways for more joy and more freedom. And this is really where the time and space comes. To really create the things you want in your life, even in uncertain times, even when things feel so insecure. Let's question the status quo. Let's return back to the world, however it's going to be, in some up-leveled version of ourselves. And we can start now by tweaking the routine and even deciding how we're going to keep certain new things in the routine when we go back to whatever the thing is that's going to exist on the other side of this. All right, I wish everyone peace and joy and love and the opportunity to connect. And again, if you are in some kind of huge financial stressful situation, I recommend, again, going to Dave Ramsey's website and looking at his tools that he's offered for free or close to free right now in order to begin the process of creating a plan around the finances that can help alleviate some of the stress. Sometimes when we have a plan and we're taking action towards it, it can afford us sleep if we actually feel like we're doing something that puts us in a better direction towards something that will actually work in the long run. All right, have a great one.